Here we go. It is 1 o'clock, so we are going to go ahead and get started. Thank you so much for being here. This is Launching Science in the 25-26 school year. So as a reminder, you might have heard this already today. There's not an attendance survey for this PD. All we need you to do is go into PD&E and register with this course number. And so that will get you credit for science, social studies, language arts, and math. So course number 35262 in PD&E. So I want to start off by introducing my amazing team. So my name is Kristen Luthi, and I have the pleasure to serve as the K-5 Science Director. Then I have my amazing instructional coach, Mr. Brandon McKinney. Then our amazing K-12 Science Program Assistant, Elisa Malone. She makes sure all the stipends are paid and everybody gets credit for courses. And then also we have Brenda McDaniel, who is our Green and Healthy School Rep. So she helps with composting and gardening and all of that fun stuff. So this is the small but mighty K-5 science team. So this is our agenda for this afternoon. We're going to start by talking about instructional calendars and pacing guides. Then we're going to jump into high quality tier 1 instruction for science. Then we are going to go through different resources that we have for you. So starting right off with instructional calendars. So you may notice that there are brand new instructional calendars for the 25-26 school year. So back in February, we sent out feedback survey to all of our schools. We got lots of different feedback from across the district, and then we compiled all of that feedback. And based on that feedback, we updated instructional calendars. We also looked at data. So those district assessments, state recommendations, all of that. We pulled all those pieces together to really create the best instructional calendars for this school year. And so you can find these instructional calendars 2 places, either on the main eComp in this purple button. It's going to be all of your instructional calendars for all 4 core, or on your grade level page, if you click instructional calendars, the button that looks like this, it is going to take you to your grade level specific instructional calendar. Because we updated instructional calendars, we also updated our pacing guides. So hopefully you've gotten the opportunity to look at the new pacing guides. We're going to go through some of them today, but we are super excited about the new pacing guides. So Brandon and I are a small but mighty 2-person instructional team. And so we really rely on curators and teacher leaders to give us feedback. And so we have a multi-step process for reviewing and improving pacing guides. We really think that you are going to like the improvements for this school year. But keeping in mind that the goal of the updated pacing guides is always to support that student's success. And then we want you to know that your voice matters, and that throughout the school year, we have a brand new way for you to give us feedback on our pacing guides. So when you go to that science office page, you're going to see a button that looks like this. When you click that button, it's going to take you to the K-5 resource feedback form. There, you'll be able to put your name and your school and your grade level, a copy of the resource that you are asking about, and then you are able to give us feedback. It could be feedback on pacing, feedback on lessons. There might be a typo, a link doesn't work. So we're going to collect all of our feedback through this feedback button. So now to the fun stuff. High quality tier 1 science instruction. So this year, when talking about science instruction, we want you to remember 3 words. Okay, we need to anchor our student learning. We need our students talking about science, and then we need our students doing science. So anchor, talk, do. What does this look like? So this looks like our 5E model for instruction. Now, we have been using the 5E model for instruction in K-12 science since about 2017. So this isn't new to us. We've been doing these things already. But what is new is when you look on the 5E task and when you look on our pacing guides, you're going to see this graphic. And this is a signal to remind us that we are using the 5E model. So we're going to start by engaging our students. We're going to let our students explore. As a district, we've been discussing a lot about explicit instruction. And so in the explain portion, you're going to see that explicit instruction. We're going to elaborate on our student learning, and then we are going to evaluate our students. So there are brand new 5E key tasks and slide decks that are available for every AKS. But again, this isn't new. We just kind of compiled it in a different way for you. So we're going to start off by engaging. We've already been doing this through annotating our learning targets, through the Notice and Wonder protocol with the phenomenon, and then with our word catcher strategy. When we talk about explore, that is going to be our Tinker Time activity. We received lots of feedback around explicit instruction and the explain phase. So this year you will see specific slides that are designed to help you give your students that explicit instruction. Then we have the elaborate piece, which are those critical thinking tasks, those literacy mini tasks, and then brand new this year, quick checks. So here is an example of a pacing guide. So we have our AKS, we have our learning targets, we have our 5E lesson plan, and then the formative quick check, okay? When you think of our 5E lesson, that is our very best thinking around that indicator, okay? But that is also the minimum that you need to do with your students. So you're going to start off with that 5E lesson plan. You're going to give your students that formative quick check. And then we have additional resources to support you. So your students might not get it. They might not get a piece of the AKS. Then you can pull these additional resources to support your student learning. Also new this year, we have vocabulary cards, new review games. So this example is a Jeopardy game for you to play with your students. And then updated assessment items and leveled text. So we've always had our assessment items. We rolled out our leveled text last year, but they are new and improved. We added some pictures to make them easier for our students to read and understand. So let's dig into the individual pieces of our 5E model, okay? Starting with annotating our learning target. Then we're going to engage our students through that Notice and Wonder protocol. We're going to co-construct vocabulary with our students through the word catcher strategy. We're going to let our students explore through the Tinker Time. We are going to give explicit instruction to our students through the explain phase. And then we are going to elaborate on their learning and evaluate our students' learning. So annotating the learning target. So I like to call these pictures that I found in the wild. And so you can see lots of different examples of annotated learning targets for science. And when we annotate our learning targets, that is going to help increase student engagement because they're going to know what they're learning, what the expectation is. It is going to increase student achievements, and then it's also going to enhance student ownership of their learning. Now, we are super excited that in the 5E lesson plans, there are examples. So if you're not quite sure what words to pull out, you can look at our examples to help support you as you are supporting your students. And so here is an example from a second grade lesson plan that is embedded in that 5E task. Then you're going to engage your students. We do that through our anchor phenomenon, okay? Again, not new. We have added Notice and Wonder anchor charts in the 5E lesson plans so that you can see what does it look like when I start noticing and wondering with my students? What does it look like when my students are identifying open and closed questions? And then how do I refine those questions with my students? So you can see here's the Notice and Wonder. We have opened and closed questions. And then on the pink sticky notes are those refined questions. So it'll have 3 different a progression of anchor charts to show what it looks like at each step, okay, to really support you as the teacher on how to do the Notice and Wonder protocol with your students. Then also not new, we have our word catcher strategy. So I absolutely love this quote from Weta. It says that science concepts are captured in a web of knowledge, not just a specific word. And so when students can connect a word with a web of information through experiences with our phenomenon or by connecting it to other real world applications, um, they are able to make better meaning of the word. The word itself conveys and holds relatively little meaning. And so when we are creating our word catcher, again, it is that progression. So it is going to start off with, what does a beginning word catcher look like when I've just annotated the learning target with my students? What does it look like when I've began adding words with it with my students? And then what does it look like when I start co-constructing the meaning of those words with my students? So you're going to see a progression of the anchor charts within the 5E lesson plans, okay? And this quote really reminds me of our work that we're doing with Natalie Wexler and building knowledge. And she talks about how knowledge is like Velcro, and students have to have some background knowledge in order to stick new knowledge on it. So really co-constructing those words with our students. And again, there's examples in the 5E lesson plans. Okay, so when I have annotated my learning target, when I've done the Notice and Wonder protocol, when I have co-constructed the vocabulary with my students, I have anchored their learning. Now I'm ready for them to talk and to do the science. So next up is the explore piece. That is going to be our tinker time. When our students are doing tinker time, if you've done tinker time in the past, you know it's a little bit loud, but kids are exploring and they're talking and they're trying to figure it out. It's also an opportunity for them to do the science. Now, we've already started getting questions from people that are asking, can we move the explain before the explore? And no, in science, we need our students to explore before the teacher explains. Again, that Velcro to attach the knowledge to. So here we see some students that are exploring with electromagnets. They're trying to build I'm sorry, it's not electromagnets, it's a circuit. They're trying to build a circuit so that the teacher can go back and teach the pieces of the circuit once they've had an opportunity to see, hey, if I take this battery and I take these wires, I can make this light bulb work, okay? So explore before the teacher explains. After students have done the tinker time activity, then we're going to go to the explain piece. So these are new and updated this year. There are web slides that have explain on them as well as teaching points. So when you open up that lesson plan, you are going to see on slide 15, say this, on slide 16, say this, and then you're going to have the slides that go along with it. And so it's really set up to support that explicit instruction in the explain phase of the lesson. Last but not least, you're going to elaborate and evaluate. So during the elaborate phase, that is going to be those critical thinking tasks, those literacy mini tasks that we have been doing for years. It's going to give students an opportunity to do the science through the lens of the science and engineering practices that are embedded within our standards. And then new this year, we have our quick formative checks. And so these are about 6 questions, and they are meant to assess what you have taught your students, okay? Again, with our 5E lesson plans, that's our very best thinking around that AKS. But once you give this quick check, your students may not have mastered it yet. We still have our small group lesson plans and those additional resources to support the needs of your students. So when we have done all of those things, remember our 3 words, we have anchored our student learning, we have given students the opportunity to talk, and then have given the students the opportunity to do the science. Okay, so we are also super excited that we have embedded the QSSA strategy in all of our 5E lesson plans. So what is the QSSA strategy? It is an enhanced turn and talk for your students. Okay, so you may have heard about the WestEd reports. WestEd came in, they did learning walks with students. teachers, an entire team. They really looked at our students, and they said their feedback was that our students needed to talk more, especially our MO learners. Our MO learners need to have more conversation, okay? So the QSSA strategy is that strategy for meaningful interaction. Again, it's embedded in all of our 5E slide decks. So you're going to start by asking your students an open-ended question. Then you're going to have your students signal once they have their response. So giving them that independent think time. So asking a question and then having them give you a thumbs up once they have their answer. Then you're going to provide students with sentence stems. Again, they're already on the slide deck for you. Then students will turn and talk. Then the last piece is you will assess by discussing whole group with your whole class or having students write about the answer to their question, okay? So this really works well for our ML students, but it also supports all of our students. And it's embedded in the slide decks. So let's chat about instructional resources. So when you go to your grade level page, you are going to see the instructional calendars. You are going to see the science and engineering practice page that has lots of information about the science and engineering practices and additional resources. We have our science and engineering practice multilingual learner strategies with this button. We have our learning targets and vocabulary, brand new vocabulary cards that you can find there. And then our K-5 Science Leader Toolkit. Then when you click on your specific unit, okay, that is going to take you to the new instructional calendars, the pacing guide, where you're going to see all of those lessons and all of those resources, the analyzing the standards documents, and then our updated sample assessment items. Now, when you click on your pacing guide, you are going to see the AKS. You are going to see this box that has, again, the analyzing the standards documents, the sample assessment items, the updated text sets, the learning targets and vocabulary. For third grade, you have access to gizmos, which are digital simulations of different scientific experiments. So when you click on that, it is going to give you information that is going to align to the AKS that you teach in third grade. We have possible material list. What are those materials that you are going to need to support your students? ML support, and then our science and engineering practice resources and launch lessons. Also, our CLT toolkits have been updated. So if you are in charge of running a CLT for science, or if you just need to sit down and get some extra support, this is a great resource for you to use with your team or by yourself. So when you click on this button, it is going to take you to a slide deck that has lesson planning and pacing information. So everything from the pacing guide to vocabulary to what do my anchor charts need to look like? What does my notice and wonder protocol need to look like? Vocabulary cards, word catchers, instructional calendars, text sets, it's all there for you. We also have a slide on assessment, whether it be the formative assessment performance task, that review game that is new this year, the science formative assessment strategy. So how can I take a concept and quickly formatively assess my students? That's some strategies for you, or the sample assessment item bank. We also have resources on small group instruction and our ML strategies. So a hot topic is science materials. So third grade, you have a everyday phenomenon kit around droughts. And so that kit is specifically for that AKS to support you. So make sure that you find that. And when you get into changes in the Earth's surface, that is going to be the kit for you to use. Then we also have the next time you see books. And so these were sent out to schools last year, and they are hard copies of all of these titles. So you have 10 of each of these books within your building. So these are great for teaching all different types of concepts to your students. So highly, highly recommend. Then we have also downloaded money from my office to your local schools. So if you have a science supply need, please reach out to your local school administrators. They have money specifically sent from my office to support you in purchasing science materials. Okay, so we don't want science materials to get in the way of doing that high quality tier one instruction. So we have made sure that we have downloaded money to your school to help support you with supplies. So last but not least, know that Brandon and I are here to support you. If you have any questions, feel free to reach out to either one of us. So we have just a couple minutes left. So I am going to go ahead and show you a couple of the resources that we chatted about. So hopefully you've noticed that our comm center is live in Google. It is completely switched over. So you will see the instructional resources. You also will see the science office homepage, which is right here. We like to call this our super secret science button because a lot of people don't know that if you click it, there's tons of information for you. So starting off with contact information for Brandon and myself, we have professional learning opportunities that we would love for you to join us at. We have professional development resources, which are going to take you to recordings and slide decks of our professional development. So if you missed out on Science Summer Institute, if you're a new teacher or a veteran teacher that wants to see what we did at New Teacher Orientation, and then our slide deck from today will be posted here for Science Pre-Planning. We also have a YouTube channel that we are working on updating, so you can like and subscribe to the K5 Science YouTube. Also on this page, you will see, again, the feedback button that we chatted about. We have science and engineering practice resources, K5 Science Leader Toolkit, Joyful Learning resources, First Lego League information. Next time you see I Wonder books. So if you click here, here are the digital copies of those books that we sent out to your schools, plus a few additional topics. These are great. We have science fair information, design thinking resource information, and then new classroom example pictures. So if you want to know what does it look like when teachers are analyzing, annotating that learning target? What does it look like when teachers are using the word catcher strategy? This has pictures that I found out in the wild of Gwinnett County teachers doing amazing science work. Then we have our multilingual learner resources, our English and Spanish vocabulary cards, the science and engineering practice vertical progression, and content vertical progression. Okay, really quick, I want to show you the third grade page. Again, all of those resources that we chatted about, the CLT toolkit. These are our amazing curators that worked this summer to support science instruction. But then if you click on your habitat units and you click on your pacing guide, you will see we have our DOE resources up at the top. We have a Unit 0. How do we set up our classroom for science success on day one and get our students to understand those science and engineering practices? We have our AKS and our achievement level descriptors. All of those amazing resources that we talked about, including the learning targets and vocabulary cards. We have a launch lesson on asking questions. How do we get kids to ask questions? And then starting with that first AKS of asking questions to differentiate between plants, animals, and habitats found within Georgia regions. Next, you will have your 5E lesson, your formative quick check, and then the additional resources, okay? When I click on the 5E lesson, up at the very top with the materials, that is where my slide deck is going to be, okay? So make sure you open the lesson plan and then you can click the slide deck. It'll tell you all of the materials that you need. And like I said, all of those anchor charts are embedded within the lesson plan. And then when I get to the explain piece, you are going to see the teacher actions where we have that explicit instruction for our students, okay? So I hope you have a wonderful school year. Feel free to reach out to Brandon or myself if you have any questions, and we look forward to seeing you out at schools and in PD. Thanks.